Have you ever walked into a boardroom feeling completely prepared, only to watch your words fall flat while someone else commands the entire room? You're not alone. Countless professionals struggle with that sinking feeling of not being taken seriously despite having all the right ideas. The world's most respected leaders have mastered 3 verbal techniques that separate them from everyone else. There's one body language mistake that instantly kills your credibility, and your current communication style might actually be working against you. But first, let's uncover the hidden signal you're sending that undermines your authority every time you speak. Every time you speak, you send invisible signals that either build or destroy your leadership presence. Most professionals don't realize they're sabotaging themselves with one simple word pattern. Research shows that 73% of managers use weak language without knowing it. Words like I think, maybe, and sort of act like tiny hammers chipping away at your credibility. But there's something even more dangerous than weak words. The deadliest authority killer is the question voice. This is when you make statements sound like questions by raising your pitch at the end. This single habit makes you sound unsure, even when you're absolutely right. Your team starts questioning your decisions before you even finish speaking. The fix is surprisingly simple, but most people get it completely wrong. Speaking of getting things wrong, let's talk about the credibility mistake that's probably happening right now in your meetings. Picture this. You're giving a presentation, your content is perfect, but something feels off. Your audience seems distracted, unengaged. The problem isn't your words, it's your body betraying your message. Leaders understand that communication is 55% body language, 38% tone, and only 7% actual words. The most common mistake will shock you. It's not slouching or avoiding eye contact. It's scattered energy. This is when your gestures, posture, and movement don't match your confident words. You might say, I'm certain about this decision, while unconsciously fidgeting, shifting weight, or making tiny defensive movements. Your body is literally arguing with your words, and your team believes your body over your mouth every single time. But before we fix your body language, we need to address the communication style that's been holding you back for years. Most professionals communicate the way they were taught in school: polite, indirect, and overly detailed. This people-pleaser communication style worked great for getting good grades, but it's career poison at the leadership level. You might think you're being thorough when you explain every detail, but your team hears uncertainty and lack of confidence. Here's what's really happening in your listener's brain. When you over-explain, people assume you don't trust your own judgment. When you hedge with phrases like, I could be wrong, but, you're teaching others to doubt you. Your well-meaning attempts to be humble and inclusive are actually signaling that you're not ready for bigger responsibilities. The most successful leaders communicate in a completely different way. Now let's discover the 3 verbal techniques that separate world-class leaders from everyone else. Real leaders don't ask for permission to lead. They assume it. Command presence starts with how you structure your sentences. Instead of saying, should we consider moving forward? You say, we're moving forward with this approach. Notice the difference? The first version gives away your power by making leadership a group decision. But there's a specific word pattern that makes this even more powerful. Master leaders use declarative statements followed by brief pauses. Here's an example. This is our next step. Brief silence. Here's why it matters. Another brief silence. The pause gives weight to your words and prevents the nervous rambling that destroys authority. Your brain wants to fill silence with more words, but leaders know that strategic silence creates more impact than 1,000 explanations. Command presence is just the beginning. The second technique actually changes how people think about your ideas. Top leaders don't present ideas, they present inevitable conclusions. Instead of saying, what do you think about this strategy? They say, when we implement this strategy, here's what will happen. This technique, called assumption anchoring, makes your proposals feel like natural next steps rather than risky experiments. The psychology behind this is fascinating. Your brain processes when very differently than if. When you say, if we do this, you're asking people to imagine failure. When you say, when we do this, you're asking them to imagine success. Their subconscious mind starts solving implementation problems instead of finding reasons to say no. This single word change can double your approval rate for new initiatives. The third technique is so powerful that most people are afraid to use it, but it's the secret weapon of every executive. Here's what surprises most people. The strongest leaders occasionally admit what they don't know, but they do it strategically, not accidentally. Weak communicators say, I don't know, and stop talking. Strong leaders say something like this, I don't have that data yet, but here's what I'm doing to get it by Friday. This technique actually makes people trust you more. Strategic vulnerability shows confidence in your problem-solving ability, not weakness in your knowledge. When you acknowledge gaps and immediately present your solution plan, people see a leader who thinks ahead and takes responsibility. It's the difference between saying, I don't know what to do, versus, I know exactly how to find out. This authenticity makes you more relatable while maintaining your authority. Now that you know what to say, let's talk about how your voice can either support or sabotage these techniques. Your voice carries more leadership signals than any other communication tool. Research shows that people with lower, steadier voices are perceived as more competent and trustworthy. But here's the problem. Stress raises your voice pitch, and leadership roles come with constant stress. The solution isn't just breathing exercises. It's voice conditioning. There's one simple trick that instantly adds authority to any voice. Before important conversations, hum at your lowest comfortable pitch for 30 seconds. This relaxes your vocal cords and sets your baseline lower. Then, practice the CEO pause. A full 1-second stop between sentences. Most people rush through important points, making them sound less important. Leaders let their words breathe. This pause also gives you time to keep your voice steady and controlled. Your voice sets the foundation, but the words you choose can make or break your leadership presence. Every word you choose either adds to or subtracts from your leadership account. Weak words like hopefully, possibly, and I believe make you sound unsure. Power words like certainly, specifically, and we will project confidence and decision-making ability. The difference is remarkable. Same ideas, completely different impact. But the most dangerous words are the ones you don't even notice. Filler words are authority killers. Every you know, and like tells your audience that you're not prepared or confident in your message. Leaders eliminate these by practicing the silent pause. When you feel an coming, just stay quiet for 1 second instead. The silence feels awkward to you but sounds confident to others. Words matter, but how you organize them can transform your entire presence in the room. Leaders don't just share information, they create experiences. Strategic storytelling makes your points memorable and persuasive. Instead of saying, we need to improve customer service, tell a specific story like this. Yesterday, I watched Sarah turn an angry customer into our biggest advocate in just 5 minutes. Here's exactly what she did. But there's a story structure that makes your message impossible to ignore. The best leadership stories follow the challenge-action-result pattern. Present a problem, describe the specific actions taken, then share the measurable outcome. This structure proves you can solve problems, not just identify them. Your team stops seeing you as someone who points out issues and starts seeing you as someone who delivers solutions. Stories engage the heart, but data engages the mind. Let's learn how to combine both for maximum impact. Numbers don't lie, but they can be boring. Leaders know how to make data come alive through context and comparison. Instead of saying, sales increased 15%, you say, sales grew 15%. That's $2.3 million in additional revenue, enough to fund our entire marketing expansion. Same number, completely different impact. The secret is in how you frame the numbers. Always connect data to consequences that matter to your audience. If you're talking to executives, translate numbers into profit or competitive advantage. If you're talking to your team, translate numbers into job security or growth opportunities. The data stays the same, but the meaning changes based on what your listeners care about most. Now that you can present compelling cases, let's master the art of handling pushback and objections. When someone challenges your ideas, your first instinct is probably to defend or explain more. This is exactly wrong. Leaders handle objections by acknowledging them first, then redirecting to their stronger position. Here's how it sounds. I understand your concern about the timeline. Let me show you why moving fast actually reduces our risk here. The most powerful response technique will surprise you. Sometimes the best response is no response at all. When someone raises a weak objection, simply pause for 2 seconds and then continue with your next point. This signals that their objection wasn't worth addressing, which often makes them reconsider its validity. Use this technique carefully. It's powerful but can backfire if overused. Handling objections is defensive. Let's learn how to go on the offensive by controlling the conversation flow. Leadership conversations aren't accidental, they're architected. You can guide any discussion toward your desired outcome using simple redirection techniques. When conversations drift off topic, don't fight it. Instead, build bridges with phrases like this. That's a great point about budget constraints, which actually supports my recommendation to move forward quickly. There's one phrase that can redirect any conversation. Master the transition phrase, "speaking of," followed by their topic, then "that reminds me of," followed by your topic. This acknowledges their point while smoothly steering back to your agenda. It feels natural to them, but you're actually in complete control of where the conversation goes. Practice this technique until it becomes automatic. Controlling conversations is just the beginning. The real power comes from reading the room and adapting your approach. Great leaders are communication chameleons. They adjust their style based on their audience's needs and energy. In a room full of analytical thinkers, lead with data and logic. With creative teams, start with vision and possibilities. With stressed colleagues, acknowledge the pressure before presenting solutions. But there's one universal signal that tells you exactly how you're being received. Watch for engagement cues. Are people leaning in or sitting back? Making eye contact or checking phones? Asking questions or staying silent? These signals tell you whether to speed up, slow down, add more detail, or wrap up quickly. The best leaders constantly adjust their communication based on these real-time feedback signals. Reading the room helps you adapt, but there's one more crucial skill for cementing your leadership presence. Indecision is leadership poison. Even when you're uncertain, you must communicate with clarity and conviction. This doesn't mean making reckless choices. It means presenting your best current thinking as a clear path forward. Here's how it sounds. Based on what we know now, here's our direction. As we learn more, we'll adjust accordingly. The difference between decisive and reckless comes down to one key element. Always include your decision criteria when making announcements. For example, I'm choosing option A because it addresses our 3 main priorities: speed, cost, and quality. This shows thoughtful analysis, not impulsive choices. If circumstances change, you can revisit your criteria without looking indecisive. People trust leaders who can explain their thinking process. All these techniques work together, but there's one final element that determines whether you'll be seen as a manager or a true leader. Leadership communication isn't about perfection. It's about consistency. Every interaction is an opportunity to reinforce your leadership presence. Whether you're in a formal presentation, casual hallway conversation, or heated debate, your communication style should clearly signal, "I'm the person who gets things done." Here's the moment of truth. The difference between managers and leaders isn't title or experience. It's how they show up in every conversation. Managers communicate to inform. Leaders communicate to inspire, influence, and drive action. Starting today, every time you speak, ask yourself, am I communicating like someone who manages tasks or like someone who leads people? Your voice is your leadership signature. Make it count. The boardroom is waiting for someone who can command attention, inspire action, and drive results through the power of strategic communication. That someone can be you. Now you know how to talk like a leader in every situation. Whether you need to speak with confidence in meetings, communicate effectively with people at conferences, or be heard as a leader during public speaking moments, these leadership communication strategies will transform how others see you. Remember, when you speak like a leader, you don't just talk to people. You inspire them. Use these leadership speaking skills and speak at work with the powerful language that gets results. Master how to communicate like a leader, and watch how your ability to talk to anyone changes everything. Be confident in yourself. Simplify your message like a leader, and let these Speak Like a Leader tips guide you to the executive presence you deserve.